let's talk about the Outdoor Axe as something of an overview. Now, this is an axe that's a pretty new addition to Grantsford's range. Sort of fits in between the mini hatchet and the wildlife hatchet. It's got a small head on a longer handle, so it's sort of any task, camp and survival type axe. In fact, Grantsford says that it could be used for any task, and it was made by one of their onboard survival experts, Lars Folt, who thinks you can cut down a tree with it or use it as a knife and pretty much everything in between. So pretty small little axe. Got a metal collar unlike most other Grantsford axes. Let's look at the specs. So from there to there, the cutting blade, 2.5 inches. And it's got a reasonably heavy head for an axe this size. Often it's really, really small. The overall length is 14.5 inches, 37 centimeters. And across the head is 2 centimeters, so it's just under an inch thick there. So pretty good for your splitting as well when you compare it to your thick knives. 500 grams, about half of a pound. See that collar there? It protects the axe from under the beard of the blade there. And it's also got a lanyard hole there. So this axe really does excel at stock removal of wood, working stuff down for smaller projects like making wooden utensils, tent pegs or bowls. The blade comes bloody sharp from the factory. They use a recycled mid-carbon steel, and that sounds, a little bit dodgy. Recycled steel. What sort of steel is it, you think? Well, from all accounts, I think it's mainly to do with the heat treat and I guess good quality recycled stock. So it hasn't had any problems or issues in any of the Grantsford axes I've used, and the steel has always been more or less the same. The head's held pretty happily in hand for up-close tasks. The Hudson Base type pattern with the smaller fixing point and the lower beard really protects your hand when you're doing the carving and stuff. So works really, really well for me. The size, really happy with it. Overall, it's really packable and just a nice sort of scale up from a large knife, but without having to carry a whomping huge axe around with you as well. As I said, it comes super sharp and just got a nice little straight handle. So pretty good little pocket. So now the size makes it excellent for most grips. It's a little bit small for two hands, but it's manageable. That's how you cut down a tree, I suppose. It's really ideal in one hand. Nice and short. For little swinging chops and things like that. And of course, choking up underneath it, using it as a knife, no problems at all. I really like the general feel of the handle, and I really like a straight handle on a smaller hatchet as well. Having curves seems to makes you feel like you have to wield it in a certain way, whereas you can carry this like a hammer. You can sort of rely on that little bit of flare out at the bottom to protect it from flying out of your hand. And this is just a demonstration of a few grips here. Overall, about perfect for what I'm after. And it reminds me of the Best Made straight hold hatchet, which I did like. I liked that straight handle there. Pretty good indeed. This one comes with a really good leather mask. It's good thick leather, and it's got a really good positive snap there too. So sometimes the leather's a bit thinner on these Grantsfords. I think my Small Forest axe is a lower quality leather than this nice, good thick stuff. Speaking of the Small Forest axe, let's compare the two. The Small Forest axe is a much larger head, and it's got a handle that's about 5 inches longer. This definitely puts it a class or probably two above this one in terms of swinging and chopping power. But in exchange for this, it's about double the weight and significantly more cumbersome to carry around. You can see here that the larger head is needed to affix it with an additional steel wedge, as well as the wooden one. The handle is wider as well. It's got sort of a bit of a slope and a point to it, whereas this one's more or less round on the Outdoor Axe. Both are excellent axes, but both really quite different in their philosophy of use. You'll find the Small Forest axe much more usable around the garden and stuff. Obviously brilliant for taking camping, but generally you'll find that something a little bit smaller will be handier. Speaking of packable, this is me putting the Outdoor Axe into my pack, the Frost River pack. Fits really well in the main compartment, and as you see, doesn't stick out from the top like the Small Forest axe does. And it also fits really well into the little side pocket there as well, so that's completely carryable and rather secure because a lot of the handle is stuck inside that side pocket there. The only thing you're going to start finding difficulty with an axe this size is when you're working on dry wood. This is just some footage of me chopping away at some dry wood. And really a task like this is best saved for a saw, because you'll be chopping for a fair while. If this wood was green, this would be no worries at all. But when you're getting your dead stuff, which is probably going to be your firewood prep, it is really where part of your whole setup, I mean, you could survive with just an axe, but ideally, going for leisure, you're going to be bringing a folding saw as well. And I use a silky saw on cuts like this, really power through and get it to a stage where it is then for use of an axe to get the rest of the way into your firewood sticks. So as you see, this axe slightly wider head makes it a really good splitting tool and very, very safe to split like this. Just get the axe stuck and just sort of hammer into the log beneath. Good way to split wood safely, and that collar does protect it for when the wood starts to peel back towards the handle, which does happen unless you're an amazing woodsman. How we all just do this, make the stuff up as we go. So that's a really good bushcraft set. This axe, a silky saw or a folding saw, and a companion knife if you're travelling really light. So the axe in this sort of scenario is replacing the really big knife. So this is like a cold steel Trailmaster I'll show you here. So that would do a bit of the axe stuff, but also have a bit more of a versatile point. But overall, I think a really great setup, if you aren't weight limited, is probably something like a large stocky knife, this axe and a saw, and then maybe something like an Ontario Rat #1 folder or something similar, just to do all your sort of finer work or your food prep. So really great bushcraft setup. Anyway, you guys, that's sort of the overview of this axe. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'd really recommend it. It cost me $210, which, let's not beat around the bush, is a pretty penny, but I have a feeling that this is going to get some pretty reasonable hard use, and I think it's going to do a lot for me. So I'll see you in the next video, guys, and just hang around. Probably in a couple of months' time I'll follow up with a proper review of this tool. See you now.